Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well, happy summer, everybody. Welcome to It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. It actually is officially summer, which is actually, in one kind of way, kind of sad. My wife, Yana, always says to me, Matt, that she gets sad when she knows the days get shorter, like the light gets shorter, like, you know what I mean? The actual daytime. I'm like, but that means summer just started. I'm looking at, I know. So, but the days are getting shorter again. You know what I mean? It's kind of a little bit of an oxymoron.
You know how I feel. It's too hot. I get it that if you're going to be one of those people that says you can't complain about the weather, and then when it gets too hot, say it's too hot, you have to pick which side you're on. I don't like when it's too hot. I would prefer 60 degrees with a cool breeze. So listen, I want to enjoy my summer. I hope everybody has an incredible 4th of July and they get to do whatever they want to do. But yeah, to me, it's already like, okay, it's hot. Like I'm ready for fall and football and all of the things.
I'm not with you on that at all. I love playing golf in hot weather. I played golf in hot weather today. The day we're recording this, actually played in a Crime Stoppers event to raise some money. And it was like 90 degrees. Yeah, it was hot. You know what, though? I'd say, you know what? Because I think about how lucky it is we have this weather now, because most of the year we don't get very warm, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I don't mind it. I don't mind playing in that heat. Summer is the time for baseball, off-season moves, trades, and we had one. We're going to talk about that. It's always game day in Buffalo. Thanks for being with us. Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais. Follow us on X, anywhere social, really, at Sal Sports, at Matt_Beauvais. Make sure you subscribe, download it, tell all your friends about it as well. It's always game day in Buffalo. So last week, we went to New York City, and we went to a Yankees game on Friday night. They lose the game on Friday. It was a surprise trip. Max had no idea. Literally like, hey, woke up in the morning. Hey, guess what? We're going to New York City tonight for the Yankees game. Oh, my God. Well, it also just happened to randomly be that same weekend that we did not plan on going that weekend because of it, Fanatics Fest. And I'm sure you've seen some videos from Fanatics Fest. Pretty amazing. That's where literally Kevin Durant found out he was traded, right? At Fanatics Fest. I'm walking around the floor and I see a bunch of people. I look up, there's Tom Brady and Kevin Hart on stage 20 feet in front of me. It's just wild. I mean, it's a huge card show convention, huge autograph convention. The most amazing people you can imagine from any sport, including WWE, is there. You know, it's incredible. Well, anyway, Matt, the reason I'm bringing this up to you is I like to observe a lot of things. One of the things I observed, I'm going to ask you a little trivia question here, what you think, okay?
Okay.
What two NFL teams do you think were most represented with people wearing gear? There was probably, there were thousands of people there that I saw come in. Now, I went on one day, I will tell you, it was at the Javits Center in New York City. That's where it was held, the Javits Center, big convention center in New York City. What two teams do you think were the most represented? I think clearly, like I saw more of these two teams, jersey wise, especially, but other shirts too, of these teams than anybody.
Is it obvious?
I don't think so.
So the obvious answer to me would have been Cowboys, but if it's not, is that obvious?
Obvious to me would be Giants and Jets because they're right there in New York.
Was Cowboys one of them?
Cowboys is not, but I would say they might be third or fourth. They were up there.
Okay.
I do think I did note definitely a lot of Cowboys.
So
these other two.
I was thinking,
and now I will tell you, I'm spoiling it by saying it definitely was not the Jets. I did not see a lot of Jets.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be either of the New York teams.
There were a lot of Giants. They were right up there.
I'm always thinking about those lists of the most popular jerseys in the NFL. I always think about this too. Like, I'm not quite full Disney guy, but you know that I love going to Disney. And I feel like when I'm at Disney, I notice, maybe it's just because it catches your eye quick, I always notice people wearing Bills stuff, especially now. So I was going to guess the Bills being one of them. If they're not the top two, I would imagine they're pretty high though still. Was there a lot of Bills?
I think the Bills were number one.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the Bills were the most represented NFL team. Now, look, we're in New York. It's a Yankees home weekend. So I'd say Yankees might have had the most like actual gear of any sports team. Quite a bit of Lakers and LeBron. Probably not as much as those other ones I just mentioned. There were definitely a lot of Giants. Now, remember, Giants and Bills look very similar, their jerseys. So I had to kind of, but you could tell the difference between a 17 and a 56. That's
Yeah,
Lawrence
definitely.
Taylor, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you kind of know that. What do you think the other team was? Wasn't Cowboys, wasn't Giants.
My two guesses would have been Chiefs or Eagles.
Eagles were very well represented. Chiefs were pretty good, not as well. Eagles were very well. They were not. I would say they were probably top 5. You're doing a good job on some of the ones that were very good, well represented.
I mean, after that, like I always go back to which fan bases travel really well, which organization. For some reason, the Steelers is sticking out.
Do.
But
hardly any Steelers gear. Here's what I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Maybe this will help. I thought about it. I'm like, why would these two teams be so represented here? And then it dawned on me, boy, I bet you because they're so similar in how they feel about passion about their team and memorabilia
Detroit?
about their team. No, but you're getting warmer.
Cleveland?
Nope.
I don't know. Just tell me.
Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense.
I thought, you know what? Green Bay and Buffalo are the two smallest markets in the league.
Mhm.
Something like this resonates with their fans. It's passion about it's up close, it's intimate, it's personal, it's sports cards, it's memorabilia, right? It's autographs. Not that those other fan bases don't care, but you have so many other options in those cities. New York has so many teams and so much going on, Chicago and LA. That's why I think, to me, that was in part, of course, you're in New York, right? I mean, it's also not a far drive, super far drive. You can go to the Javits Center. And I'm sure people from, all over the state who are Bills fans happen to be Yankees fans, maybe going to that weekend or so. So I think that was really interesting. Go ahead.
They're also good now, too.
Yes.
Like, I think sometimes, I don't want to say collectively we take for granted, but Josh Allen is a superstar. I was having this conversation with actually Carl Jones and Jonah Bronstein and Dom Tibbetts and Elena Getzenberg up in the press box for the Buffalo Bandits championship game. And it was before Josh's wedding to Haley. And we were talking about where would Josh rank as far as superstar athletes are concerned right now in the country. And we were, having him kind of in the conversation of the top 10, like active athletes in the United States. I feel like LeBron is on his own stratosphere, right? Steph Curry's probably on his own stratosphere. Mahomes is a big deal. Jalen Hurts is a big deal. I don't think there's anybody in Major League Baseball who is more recognizable than Josh Allen. Maybe Aaron Judge, maybe, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think anybody in baseball is bigger than Josh Allen. I think the NBA is an outlier. Nobody in the National Hockey League, for sure. And then, I mean, after that, like we're talking about global superstars, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewis Hamilton, but like in the United States, Josh Allen's in the conversation. So a lot of that also feeds this crazy fandom that is currently surrounding the Bills organization.
Okay, so on that note, I'm glad you brought that up because the other part of this is if I just went by single name, like names on jerseys, Josh Allen was number one of any athlete.
Yeah, he's a superstar. He's a global superstar. At
Fanatics Fest last weekend.
It's crazy.
It is any athlete.
I mean, the MVP changes things even more. Not that he wasn't a superstar before, because he was for sure, but he is just taken on. I mean, you sit there and you actually, this is perfect, right? Hold on. Watch this. Look what was just sent to me last week. This is a specialty Snickers bar. They sent these to me from Snickers, and it's got his face on it.
There you go.
Because his PR firm was like, hey, can we send you these Snickers things to promote on your station? And I was like, well, no. I mean, like, no, thank you. They sent us a couple anyway, and, we talked about them on the morning show, which is cool. So Snickers bars with Josh Allen's face on them that just happened to be sitting over here. He's got a commercial for melatonin gummies. He just married, somebody who is whatever. I don't know enough about celebrities to know what Haley Steinfeld is. A-list, I have no idea, but I know she was in a big movie that was really, really popular. Then you have the MVP, and you have the fact that they're on national television all the time. Like, they're a big deal. And it's cool because, it is a small market and it means more here. It just really does. Like, that's not even a debate. Like, it just means more in some of these smaller markets in the NFL, like Buffalo, like Green Bay, like Kansas City.
When you have a superstar, on your team, it's cool. When it's in a city like Buffalo that doesn't get the recognition of the big glitz and glamour of other cities, I agree with you. And we haven't had many here in Buffalo, and especially in this type of era with social media. Josh Allen's certainly one of them. O.J. Simpson was absolutely one of them for many years. And of course, through the Super Bowl years, you had a bunch of guys who were kind of like that on that level. I would say Dominic Hasek was that, right? Wouldn't you say he would qualify, or do you put that in a different category because he played hockey and wore a helmet and wore a bunch of gear and people didn't know exactly who he was?
There's nobody who's ever played for the Buffalo Sabres who has been a bigger superstar than Josh Allen. That doesn't mean better.
No, I know. I just mean like but in that stratosphere of the upper echelon of athletes in the country.
Yeah, I mean Hasek was, he's arguably the best goalie of all time,
Yep.
but it's just more of a niche sport, right?
Yep.
Like I always wonder, give me a random backup running back in the NFL, and I think that person might be more famous in the United States than Connor McDavid. And that's not a shot at Connor McDavid. It's just a shit. It definitely is true. I really think, like, who is give me an obscure NFL player, not crazy. I'm not saying like, I don't know. Don't go like way down the line. Is
like Ray Davis of the Bills.
No, that wouldn't be true. And I also think the point here is they have to be almost fantasy relevant, because then their name at least just pops up in some capacity. Oh, Mike just put in the chat, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is absolutely more recognizable and famous in the United States than Connor McDavid is.
Recognizable or famous? There's two different.
They're different, but more people know who Chris Godwin is than Connor McDavid is in the United States.
Maybe. It's a good question.
You don't think so? I mean, I don't.
I think you might be right. No, I think I'm not going to push back too hard on it. I understand where you're coming from.
Uh-huh.
I think you're.
Here's a great one.
McDavid is.
Do more people know who Khalil Shakir or Connor McDavid is in the United States? That's a serious question.
Connor McDavid.
I don't think that's right.
What do you think, everybody?
At
let us know. Sports at Matt_Bove. I love this question. This is great. I love stuff like this.
Talk about this on the radio tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely curious.
When we're getting into the dog days of summer, these are the kinds of things we talk about here at It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. We also look around the league because things happen around the league, and that's what happens certainly on Monday, the last day of June. The Pittsburgh Steelers trade Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. There's a draft pick involved as well. Okay, so I was on the golf course when this happened early in the day. Okay, Jalen Ramsey getting traded to Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay. And you knew Jalen Ramsey was going to get traded somewhere, right? So it wasn't a total shock. I mean, okay, all right, Pittsburgh, hey, they're loading up. They're trying to do some things. And then later in the day, I did not know for hours later, I'm looking like, wait, what? Why is everybody talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick today? What? He's the package going back? I was stunned. My initial reaction was, why would the Steelers do this? Like, Minkah Fitzpatrick is 28. Jalen Ramsey is 30, turning 31 this year, and he's had injury issues. The Steelers, to me, like, I don't get why they would want to bring in a guy with that injury history at that age for a player that's been good for you. But at the same time, now I think more about it. What the Steelers are doing, I respect. They're taking a swing, Matt.
Yeah.
They've signed Aaron Rodgers. They traded for DK Metcalf. They're going out and they're getting Jalen Ramsey. I don't love the fact that they got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick for it, but I understand the swing they're taking and what they're trying to do in 2025. They're going all in 2025.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's going to work. There's a gap between them and the Ravens that they still can't bridge, but I respect it.
Going all in for 10-7 and a wild card loss to somebody, right? I mean, we're talking about this on June 30th. Maybe that they surprise all of us, but it just feels like inevitably they're going to be 10-7. They're going to start the season hot. People are going to be like, are they contenders? They'll be 6-1, 6-2. They'll cool off a little bit at the end, and then they'll get to the playoffs and they'll probably lose. To their credit, I like the fact that they are being aggressive. I also think it's important to note Jonnu Smith is not a nothing addition to this team. Jonnu Smith was arguably the most impressive offensive player for the Dolphins last year. Now, I think it's Devon Achane. I think that guy is sick. Tyreek Hill struggled last year. Jalen Waddle was a bit inconsistent. But this is a huge loss for the Dolphins offense. I think it's almost like a net break even from the outside looking in as far as Minkah Fitzpatrick going in, Jalen Ramsey going out. I never thought Jalen Ramsey at this point in his career was nearly as impressive as he once was. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick fills a need for them. They needed somebody to play safety, especially after they lost Javon Holland earlier in the season because he went and signed with the Giants. So I almost understand it a little bit more from the Dolphins' perspective that you're getting Jalen Ramsey's money out of the door.
Yeah.
You don't want to give Jonnu Smith a new contract. So it feels like for them, they are understanding and admitting where they are. The Steelers are clearly trying to go for it. But if you're going for it, I don't love giving up Minkah Fitzpatrick unless that was the only way to pull off the deal. Like, it feels like.
And I'm not convinced Jalen Ramsey's ever good. Like, if I'm the one evaluating Jalen Ramsey and I'm not sitting there with all the film from all of his games right now and everything, I would just be like kind of buyer beware. Like, what are you getting in Jalen Ramsey right now at his age and his injury history?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's why I don't
right now.
I don't. That's why I kind of don't love it for the Steelers for that regard. But let's just say what they're doing is saying we're going to bring him in here and he's going to stay healthy for us. He's going to play. And if that's the case, you could have a really high level corner in Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, they can help you. But again, it's at the expense of moving on from Minkah Fitzpatrick. Reading some Steelers fans, they've said, but Minkah hasn't really been that great the last couple of years. So from that perspective, if they feel he's a declining player, then they're not really giving up as much.
Yeah. Did you know that he is? I feel like this is wrong. Oh, no, this is right. Jalen Ramsey, I believe, beat the Bills in the playoffs in 2017, right? When Tyrod was the quarterback, he was on that team.
Yes, he was. Oh, that was he actually had an interception at the end of the game.
You know, he's 0-7 against the Bills since Josh Allen got here. You know, he's never beaten the Bills because it's interesting. Like, I vividly remember him talking crap about Josh Allen before Josh ever played a snap in the NFL.
Yes.
And it completely catching Josh off guard. Like, at training camp, somebody telling him about it, and he looked like he saw a ghost. He was like, oh my gosh, like, why did this guy say this about me? I don't even know who this is.
Right.
And then his rookie year, the Bills beat the Jags, and he kind of celebrated in his face. Yeah, he is 0-7 against Josh Allen and the Bills since 2018, which is crazy for somebody who was talking a bunch of junk.
Jalen Ramsey, you know what? I mean, last year he did start 17 games.
Oh, yeah, he can still play. He can still play.
I mean, yeah, you know what? I feel like he's kind of been banged up, but you know what? He did play last year, 17 games, 2 interceptions last year. Let's see, 8, 11, 13 over the last 4 years. So yeah, they're banking on the upside. Okay, well, and I mean, he comes with a high price tag, but that's what the Steelers are doing. I respect it. Like I said, I mean, I don't think the Steelers have enough though to still bridge the gap between them and the Ravens. Maybe some would say them and the Bengals, but folks, they finished ahead of the Bengals last year, so you can't say that. But I don't think they have the offense the Bengals have, but they certainly have a better defense than the Bengals have, or they should at least again.
Don't you think right now you would think, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think they're the 3rd best team in their division. I mean, you might think that they're the 2nd.
I think they're the 3rd talent wise, but I don't think the Bengals defense is going to be good again. Like I think that is going to hold them back again.
But don't you think, if you said what team has a better chance of making a run and going to the Super Bowl, I think it's the Bengals because of how elite their offense could be. I feel like to get there, you have to just be really, really dynamic on one side of the ball. And I feel like the Steelers are going to be a fine offense and they'll be a pretty good or really good defense. But I don't think they're going to be like best in the league in either spot. So that's why I don't know. It's such a Steelers conversation. Just like try and be pretty good in a really tough division and get to the playoffs and see what happens.
Well, the Steelers and the Dolphins make a big trade, and the Bills are here to it feels like they've kind of settled on their roster, right? There's nothing really big that we feel is coming. And the only real kind of question before training camp might be James Cook, but that's not really a roster question. That's more of is James Cook going to be there? Is he going to be happy? What's that going to look like? But Matt, I don't think there's nothing. A lot of times we get to this time of year. Remember DeAndre Hopkins a couple of years ago, right? I mean, that settled itself early, but there always seemed to be a question about maybe a position group. Is there a guy out there? Maybe the Bills would go and get somebody. I don't see that right now. I just think this is the roster that Bills have. They have 91 on the roster. That's who they'll roll in the training camp with, and we'll see what happens.
Is there a safety that you would add? Not that necessarily is out there right now or that we even know about right now. That to me still feels like the biggest question as far as a specific position is concerned. I don't think that they're punting on Taylor Rapp or Cole Bishop. Definitely not Taylor Rapp. I think this is a really, really big summer though for Cole Bishop. That is absolutely the biggest question that I have for this team going forward. is what are they going to get out of the safety position? Because I'm not going to lie, I've really spent some time the last couple weeks going back and just watching games from last season. If I have free time, I just go back and watch the games again. The safety position stunk for a lot of the season. Like Taylor Rapp was banged up for time, so he missed some games. It was not up to snuff. And I'm not saying that things would have changed, but it felt like there was a lot of room for improvement with that position. And if you get it there, you should conceivably get more out of everywhere else on the. I mean, it's, that's how defense works. The better the safeties play, the better the defensive lines are going to look, the better the corners are going to look, and then vice versa with everything else.
Yeah, and look, I think that there are some questions we'll be getting more into in training camp. We'll be talking a little bit more when training camp starts, and we want to make sure that everybody knows that training camp is starting on July 23rd. And Matt, we got something cool we're doing here, and it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well done. What a pro. I'm sitting here looking at the comment from Mike about make sure you remember to do this, and I was like, oh, we'll do it at the end. You got it right in the middle. Well done.
Let's do it now. Let's reward our listeners. Let's reward our fans and a chance for them to be rewarded with a pair of tickets to training camp to a predetermined date. All right. So we don't know exactly what date, but a chance for you to be able to go see the Bills in training camp. Okay. We have a survey.
Any weekday date.
Weekday. There you go. So you've been
any weekday.
We want to say this right. We want to do it right. It's the first time we're doing this. It's the first time we're promoting it. But here's the deal. We have a fan survey that we want you to take part in. And unless I'm going to try and read from the email I got, but unless like exactly how you want to say it right now, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to look it over to make sure I don't get anything wrong.
I want to say it's the point of the survey is to make sure that we are providing you with what you are looking for as far as content and Bills coverage is concerned. You can tell us what you like about this podcast. You can tell us what you don't like about this podcast. If you wish that certain episodes were longer, if you wish you got more episodes, if you wish you got less episodes, video only, audio only, whatever it is. Like we are trying to make this as an enjoyable experience as possible for the people who listen to us and watch us. So this survey will just allow us to kind of streamline things a bit and cater to what the majority of you guys want. So there is going to be a survey posted in the link on YouTube right now. It'll be in the descriptions. It'll also be on the podcast page if you get your podcast from an audio version. And you click it, you fill out some information, answer some questions. It should only take you a couple minutes. And then if you do that, you got a chance to win some training camp tickets, which I know are really, really hard to come by these days.
No doubt. Ultimately,
did I do that right? Did I do that well?
I think you did it great. You did it great. It's in conjunction with Odyssey and WGR Sports Radio 550. Ultimately, we want people to feel comfortable about sharing your honest opinion. We want you to be excited to do it because you enjoy listening to the show, and there's a chance to give us, Matt and Sal, your feedback. The chance to win training camp tickets is right there for you. If you'd like to take part in this survey, we invite you to do that. So we're going to be promoting it, and we're going to be telling you where you can do it. Do we have the link? Do we post a link up here? We can read the link. It's a very tiny URL link. All right. We can put it in the chat, and
it'll be in the description. It can be in the description on YouTube. Yep.
Okay. Can I say it too? Am I allowed to say it right here? I can do that, right? It's
I think so.
Tiny URL. So it's tinyurl.com/IAGIB. It's always game day in Buffalo. That's what it is. So it's tinyurl.com/IAGIB. That's the link you go to, and you take the survey, and you are automatically entered to win a pair of training camp tickets. And we're ending this survey, by the way, and this promotion on July 11th. So it's the last chance for you to get into this, this survey. I won't be here starting July 9th. I'll be out of the country. Matt's going to be handling things for about a week or so on the podcast with himself and some guests. But after July 11th, you cannot enter this survey and have a chance to win training camp tickets.
Makes sense. Training camp starts July 23rd, so a couple weeks before that. So yeah, definitely if you are interested, please fill out the survey, have a chance to win some tickets, and tell us all the things that we can either improve upon on or that you like about the podcast so we can continue to hopefully bring you the best product available.
And by the way, Matt and I have some pretty good plans coming your way for training camp. So stay tuned for that. We're buttoning things up. We can't reveal them now, but you guys know last couple of years we've been out. We've been out at Barbell the last couple of years. Great, fantastic spot. We met a bunch of you out there. We did a podcast there. So be on the lookout for us to tell you where we're going to be again this year. We're going to do this podcast somewhere out of training camp. That's our hope, at least. And we're inching towards that, let's say. So
maybe a couple places.
That's exactly right. Maybe a couple places. And we love to see you. And every year it's gotten bigger. So thank you so much for all of that. In the meantime, speaking of promotion, we need to promote what Matt's got going on at WKBW TV Channel 7, because another episode of 52 Years of Fandemonium And the last year of Highmark Stadium, and a look back, has taken place once again, Matt.
Yeah, so tonight, we're recording this on June 30th. This is Monday evening. We just finished our 3rd episode, so we are 3 episodes down, 4 more episodes to go. But I have a feeling we're going to do some bonus episodes down the road because there's just so many things that we want to get to. So we have to, make sure that we are giving you, because I feel like this is a really interesting conversation. And we started to debate about it before the podcast even started. So first, before we get to the conversation, let's give you a small taste of the 3rd episode, small little taste of the episode that aired tonight. So here it is.
My first memory, I won't say best memory, is in 1985 when we were 2-14, and it's the end of the year, and there were 10,000 people in the stadium for a home game. I mean, that's crazy. And the stadium held 80,000.
But then 1986 rolled around.
Topping tonight's Eyewitness News, the expression Kelly Green takes on a whole new meaning tonight. The Kelly is quarterback Jim Kelly. The Green is the $7.5 million the Buffalo Bills are going to pay Kelly to bring the Bills back from the dead.
We signed Jim Kelly, and the place, right, season tickets sold out the, whatever.
Many Western New Yorkers will remember Jim Kelly was actually taken by Buffalo in the 1983 draft, the same year as Darryl Talley. But the quarterback opted instead to play for the Houston Gamblers, a team in the United States Football League. 2 years later, the USFL folded, and Jim Kelly finally signed with Buffalo.
You had to live through that era of the Kelly years. Was he coming to Buffalo? Jim publicly would state, I didn't want to come to Buffalo. And Channel 7 assigned me to do the Kelly story. Then they sent me to Houston to try to get an interview with Jim when the Bills were playing the Oilers in an exhibition game. And I was there for 2 days and, was woken by a phone call on the second day at 4 a.m. that they had signed the contract. And we went live on Channel 7 at 6 a.m. with the first report that Jim Kelly had signed with the Bills.
Kelly's arrival was a delayed but instant jolt of electricity for this fan base in Rich Stadium.
Obviously, the whole city was crazy, and football was like, people were just waiting for something to happen in Buffalo, especially at that position. Basically, you could go to the ticket office and there were lines now waiting to buy season tickets.
Jim says he still remembers his first time in Orchard Park in a Bills uniform.
I remember walking into it when we went to minicamp. And I remember walking in and, wowing it because how big it was and, what it looked like and everything. And then the memories of, who played there before.
But that wasn't his first time at Rich Stadium.
What was his first time? This is a question.
I know it.
Of course you do. What was it?
It was when the Miami Hurricanes played Syracuse.
Yep, exactly. And the Carrier Dome was being constructed, and they played their home games in Orchard Park. I know, you got the Syracuse logo right there. So, yeah, that was just a small little excerpt of the episode. I'm sorry I was stumbling over my words before. I was very confused because you put in the chat, not Hallmark. And I was like, did I say Hallmark?
No,
I was like, what did I screw up? But, yeah, that's a small taste of the episode. The entire thing is available for you right now on WKBW.com. All 3 episodes are. They can also be watched on our smart TV app. So if you would prefer to watch them from your televisions, you certainly can. I was excited that we get a little Irv Weinstein clip into this.
Irv was amazing in that.
Right? It's
Irv
just
was
like
always amazing.
So,
to bring the Bills back from the dead. It was great.
It's like so nostalgic, and also to realize $7.6 million at the time was an earth-shattering amount of money.
Yes.
Now that's what a backup running back makes or something. So kind of cool. All the episodes have been super fun to put together. But the question that we were kind of debating about before was, a lot of the premise of this episode was about the home field advantage the Bills have. And that really started in the late 80s and early 90s. And in the episode, there's a stat that from like 88 to 93, they played 55 games in Orchard Park, and they only lost 6 of them. So 49-6 during that stretch. Then you think about even now, they didn't lose a game in Orchard Park last year in the regular season or in the playoffs. They're a very, very good team at home. I don't think it's a stretch to say, and I know I'm biased here, I think the Bills have the best home field advantage in the NFL. I really do. Like, I think there's some other teams that are in the conversation, but I feel like coming to Orchard Park is a very intimidating experience for other teams.
I 100% agree. You and I have been to a lot of stadiums, almost all the stadiums. I've been to all but 3. I don't think there's a better home field advantage in any stadium. It's not just the passion of the fans, how loud they are. And yes, I know that, Kansas City is a very, very, very good home field advantage.
Fantastic. That's
I
the
think
Mount
it's
Rushmore.
right up there. But
That's in the Mount Rushmore.
I'll be a little biased here, and I do think it's the Bills because they're so on top of you the way that the stadium is configured. You have a little bit more room in Kansas City in the benches over to the not a lot more room, a little bit more room. I think the way that the stadium is configured, the enclosure of it all, and Kansas City is very similar, but so I think those 2 teams are right there when it comes to it. No doubt. And we know how wild and crazy, Bills fans can be, and maybe a little too wild and crazy sometimes. But
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I agree with that. By the way, a little behind the scenes stuff. The reason why, as Matt referenced, I put not Hallmark in our private chat. Shout out to our producer, Mike Robier. I've made this mistake a million times. On our graphic, he wrote Memories of Hallmark.
Oh, my bad.
That's why I wrote that. And I was letting him know to change. There, right there. 3rd episode, WKBW, Highmark. It said Hallmark. No worries, Mike. I wanted to everybody know what we're all referencing here.
We're
that's
chatting off
if
to
you're
the
watching
side.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I do. I've done it a million times, by the way. I've written it that way.
Yeah.
So I remember 86. I remember when Kelly was signed. I was 14 years old when this happened. I'm sorry, 13 years old. And I remember the day. And I remember I was actually camping in Allegheny with a friend of mine and his family. And I didn't really know much about Kelly as the USFL quarterback, but I knew that the Bills, they signed this really great guy that was playing really well over in the USFL. And I kind of knew the name a little bit, but I wasn't dialed in on the story. I was too young for that, but I knew that he was really good and coming, and everybody was just we got to go. We got to go. I remember his first game. It was against the Jets. It was at home and watching the game with my parents in my living room. And Kelly throws a swing pass to Greg Bell for his first ever touchdown. And I just remember the crowd going crazy. We're like, wow, this is amazing. This is the Bills and they're at home and now the crowd is going wild. And we've seen this never like this before. They lost that game, but obviously they went on to win a lot of games with Jim Kelly. They didn't right away become great. In 2 years later, they go to the AFC Championship game in 88. Then in 89, they lose to the Browns. And that was the start of the no-huddle offense because at the end of that game in the playoffs, they ran it so well. They said, let's just start doing it all the time. I will say, though, in the Super Bowl years, they were I would still argue they had the best home field advantage in the Super Bowl years. It was too tough to win. If you played them in Buffalo in the playoffs, you were done. You could not beat them. They didn't lose a playoff game at home until the late 90s, Jim's last game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. But what happened though, every once in a while, Matt, what's interesting to me is they just had a stinker at home. They don't really do that now. You know what I mean? They win the games. I guess, is there a game or two they might have recently? Because if you go back, I remember specifically in 1992, they played a pretty bad Jets team and they lost 24-17 at home to the Jets. The Jets that year were 4-12 and the Bills lose. I will say it was the week after Dennis Byrd had been paralyzed, a Jets player, and the Jets were they were very emotional coming off a high. And, it was a tough situation for everybody. The Bills lost. Earlier that year, the Bills lost to the Dolphins. In the same year, they went to the Super Bowl. 37-10, they lose to the Dolphins. And then 24-17, they lose to a 4-win Jets team. But those kinds of losses seem like there was one a year. There wasn't necessarily, but it seemed like there was one a year or one or two, maybe two over a couple of years.
Yeah, now the stinkers that come to mind, I don't know if I would qualify it as that, but the Broncos lost a couple of years ago that ultimately got Ken Dorsey fired was the first game that I thought of. They should have won that game and they didn't. So that was one that was probably stand out. There was that Colts game from a couple of years ago where they just got their doors blown off in that game. You remember that one? That was, I think, 2019 in that season. That was a really strange game. The thing about the team now is it feels like they have a stinker every year, but lately those stinkers have mostly been on the road. None jumps out to me more than the game they lost to the Jags back in the 13-second year. Like that just is crazy. I guess the stinker against the Patriots on Monday Night Football, that wind game.
Yeah, that could qualify as well. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, they're the one against the Saints that was terrible, right? Did you just bring that one up? Saints, I don't know if you said that, but
Saints was right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was right when the next week was the Peterman game because they started Peterman the next week. But the Bills would have them every once in a while. But even back then, it was very, very tough, very, very tough to come to Highmark Stadium, then Rich Stadium, and win a game. And you didn't lose in the playoffs at home. That's the one thing, Matt, where I get asked by a lot of people. We all do, like when we go on for different, we do these different spots, radio spots, TV spots around the country with other markets. And like, there's not much to ask about the Buffalo Bills anymore, except like, oh, Josh Allen's MVP performance. Can he do it again? And what's been the changes? They're pretty standard. One question I get sometimes that I do think there's an answer to, like, what's left? Is it Super Bowl or bust? Like, what's left? And I'm like, yes, of course it is, right?
For sure.
But there's one thing left they haven't done. They haven't gotten the 1 seed. And I think it's so important for them to get the 1 seed to go to the Super Bowl because they don't have to play that first week. And then they're literally, 120 minutes away from getting to a Super Bowl.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's held them back. And I know that they lost that Chiefs game at home in the playoffs and they lost the Bengals game at home in the playoffs. The Bengals was an outlier to me. I just think that everything piled onto that team and they just completely ran out of gas. The Chiefs game, they missed plays that the Chiefs didn't miss in that game. And to their credit, Mahomes is an absolute unit in the postseason. So that's a tough team to beat. But I feel like if more of these games against the Chiefs were in the playoffs, then maybe they win one of them instead of losing all 4 of them. Maybe they're 1-3 instead of 0-4. But I feel like the margins are that small, right? Like they didn't lose in Orchard Park this year. Is the AFC Championship game different if it was played in Orchard Park and not Kansas City? I don't think that's crazy to say, but that's because the Chiefs have been the better team in the regular season and the more consistent team, even though the Bills have beat them. So, yeah, I do think that that's, something that they need to try and do because, man, do things change? And you also just get so much more of a favorable matchup. Like last year, do you remember who the Chiefs had to play in the second round? Their first playoff game.
They played the Houston Texans.
That's a lot easier than the Baltimore Ravens.
Except for one thing, the Texans gave them a good game and a good fight, and they actually got to the quarterback, and they made it a game. And if they didn't miss a few kicks, they were in it at the end.
But still, I mean, think about this year too.
You'd still rather, if you're the Bills, you'd prefer that matchup. I totally agree with that.
Like they've had AFC divisional rounds where they got to beat the Browns.
Yep.
Right. Like they've had an AFC divisional game where they had to beat, whoever it is, some pretty crummy teams. Not crummy. It's relative. They're in the divisional round. They're still good. It's just comparing them to the level of opponent that the Bills at times have lost to. So yeah, it's definitely what's holding them back, but all credit to the Chiefs here because they've been able to pull it off. So this year it's so fascinating because they have the chance to do the ultimate storybook ending, or they have a chance to close the doors on a building that, even though it has been filled with so many incredible memories, has been a very heartbreaking spot for them. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I know
what can happen here. They could. What if the dream scenario for you? This is the dream. If you're a Bills fan, the last game they play in that stadium is the AFC Championship, and they punch their ticket to go to the Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, the Super Bowl this year is a couple hours away from where Josh Allen is born. It's his hometown. It would be, I think, his first game back in San Francisco because the year that they played against the 49ers was actually played against Arizona. He grew up a 49ers fan. Like, it would just be so poetic. Or the most there's a lot of heartbreaking outcomes here, but what if they host the AFC Championship? Or what if they host the divisional round and they lose? Like, all of us, you're walking out of that building, not only is the season done, you're going to be, it's just such an incredibly interesting layer that gets added onto the season. And that's actually been a pretty popular question. A lot of people have reached out, hey, why did you do the Stadium Series now instead of during the season? Because during the season, there's so much stuff going on. There's so much stuff to talk about, right? Like, if the Bills lose week 1 to the Ravens, do people really want to hear these old stories about the stadium? Probably not. They're probably like, why did they lose to the Ravens? Or what do they got to do to fix things? So it felt important that, we do it now.
Well, it's you have more coming the next several Mondays, right?
Yep.
That people are going to be able to tune in. What do we have coming up next week?
Next week, we've got an episode about, I like the next couple episodes. The next episode is a little bit more of a behind the scenes episode about all of the different people who have covered and worked for the team. So people who are in the media, people who have worked for the organization in a lot of different roles. There's some incredible, we got an interview with Chris Clark, who you obviously know is the head of Bill Security, about, some of the crazy stories at the stadium. longtime ticket workers and Jeff Mazurik, who is their equipment guy, and like so many other people. And then people who have covered the team. And then the episode after that is all about the fans and some of the most amazing fan moments at the stadium and some of the things that they've seen. You know, like the next episode, somebody shares a story about, you know, trying to bring an urn into the stadium because they didn't want to go to the game, you know, alone. They had season tickets with somebody who passed away. And like that kind of stuff happens because that's how much this building means to people.
Yeah. There's little things about the stadium that I learn sometimes, like the stories, but I have one because it just came to mind about this. And I don't know if I've shared this with you, but a few years ago, I passed out at a practice.
I was there. I remember.
Right. And I don't know if you know, but like, so they took me in. It was the open practice. People might have seen it. People listening or watching might have been there. It was a very hot day. It was the open practice. I'm in the tunnel area. I pass out right at the tunnel, wake up. All the team doctors are there. They take me inside of the media room and, you know, where the staging area, I want to say whatever. And then they say, oh, we're going to take you to the hospital. There is a hospital in the stadium. I did not realize this.
Mm-hmm.
And they wheeled me in and I'm in this hospital, like inside a stadium, like, wow, this is here. And they're like, oh yeah, we have to take care of quite a few people. And they were telling me stories about how like there are people who have heart attacks during games. And it makes sense. Like, of course, right? Like these things happen. You have 80,000 people. It's hot. Sometimes people have health issues. And I was just kind of blown away by all the things that go into the stadium because I was sitting in this hospital with an IV in my arm just after passing out a little while ago.
I cut my hand on a pair of scissors once and I needed to go get some bandages. So a little bit different.
From the same hospital in the stadium?
Exactly. Oh, so yeah. I was like, oh, hey, can I get some bandages? And they're like, yeah, here you go. Thank you. And I was like, awesome. Appreciate it. So a little bit of a less significant issue for me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a place filled with so many incredible memories. And that's why we didn't play this part, but Daryl Talley, I asked him about like what home field advantage meant to him. And it was like, you know, basically we wanted to bring you in, we wanted to freeze you, then we wanted to beat you, then we wanted to freeze you again, then beat you again. And like, you, right? Yeah, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. So thank you for having the conversation and, you know, letting us talk about this third episode here. Yeah,
we got two more things before we wrap up here. Number one, I just want to remind everybody, you know, you can always follow us on Twitter at Sal Sports and at Matt_Bove. And I've also had this thing now where you can subscribe to me. You can subscribe to some exclusive additional content that I'll be putting out, and whether it be videos or spaces or things like that. It's less than a cup of coffee a month. And every week I'm doing a little giveaway for my subscribers, Matt. And today I just randomly drew. The subscriber's name is Faith. I tweeted it out to my subscribers. She's getting this Micah Hyde mini helmet. How about that?
Oh,
all right.
Sweet.
So congratulations. Cool. And that is courtesy from the Micah Hyde people, Team Lammy, from the softball game. So there you go. So Faith, you got this Micah Hyde mini helmet. And if you want to be involved and get some exclusive content from me on Twitter, and also every month be involved in these giveaways where a random subscriber is going to be given something pretty cool from me, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and it costs you a few bucks a month. So I really appreciate that. Secondly, we want to make sure that we remind you that we really appreciate it if you could fill out the survey about this show. It'll help us make this show the best it possibly can be for you, the listeners, and the viewers. We do value your feedback. We promise you're going to be entered to win a pair of training camp tickets valid for a training camp weekday that's going to be determined. But make sure you check it out. It's tinyurl.com/AGIB.
IAGIB. It's always game day.
There you go.
IAGIB. It's always game day in Buffalo. Yes,
we're going to put it. By the way, we will put it in the description of this. Whether you're on YouTube and you're going to the YouTube page, you're reading the description of the pod, or you're on audio and you're reading the description, it will be in there. You can just click the link right there.
Yeah. Also, one of the common things that I'm sure we're going to get is that Matt's video freezes all the time. I have called my internet company and been like, guys, I pay you a ton of money. Why? It's some sort of like patch connection thing. Like I've got great internet speed, so it's hopefully going to be addressed sometime in the
so there is an issue there that you identified.
Allegedly. I don't that's my theory. Like they have to come and check it,
Yeah.
But it is bananas to me that I can run the network tests and it be absolute packet loss. That's what the theory is, packet loss. For somebody who knows anything about video
I don't know.
games,
This
I feel
sounds
I'm-
like when you go take your car in for an oil change and they go, oh, by the way, do you know that you need this, this, and this? And you're like, oh, really? And
my grandfather, an Italian immigrant, has been passed for a long time, died in 2004, but he used to have a saying that I still think about to this day. And it was with his thick Italian accent, but it was happiness is going for an oil change and leaving with an oil change. And I think about that all of the time. Just do it. Hopefully I don't need anything else.
Well, you came here for a Always Game Day in Buffalo pod. We hope we gave you a good Always Game Day in Buffalo pod. Thanks a lot for coming aboard, subscribing, downloading, giving us some nice ratings and comments. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot to our producer, Mike Robier. Till next time, for Matt, I'm Sal, and it's Always Game Day in Buffalo.